I always thought the ocean would be the scariest thing about living in a small coastal town. The way it could swallow a boat whole, or how the fog rolled in so thick you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. But after 5 years as a night shift cop in Marrow's End, I know better. The sea is just the backdrop. The real danger comes after sunset, when the rules go into effect. I moved here for the quiet. After a decade in the city, the idea of patrolling a town with more seagulls than people sounded like a vacation. I didn't ask too many questions during my interview with Chief Harlan. He was a big man with a sunburned face and a handshake like a vice. "You'll do fine here, son," he said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Just remember, we do things a little differently at night." Inside the folder was a single sheet of paper, yellowed at the edges, with 10 rules typed in blocky, faded letters. At the top, in red ink, someone had written, "For night shift only. No exceptions." I remember reading the first rule and thinking it was a joke. Rule 1. Never answer the phone after midnight, no matter how many times it rings. I looked up at Chief Harlan, expecting a smile, but he just nodded. "Read them all," he said. Rule 2. If you see a child alone on the beach after dark, do not approach. Call it in, keep your distance, and wait for backup. Rule 3. The lighthouse will flash 3 times at 1:13 a.m. If it doesn't, stay inside your vehicle until sunrise. Rule 4. If you hear singing coming from the water, close your windows and turn up the radio. Do not investigate. Rule 5. Patrol the old cannery only between 2 o'clock and 2:15 a.m. Never stay longer. Rule 6. If you find a boat tied up at Dock 7 with no registration, do not board. Report it and leave immediately. Rule 7. If you see a man in a yellow raincoat standing at the end of the pier, do not speak to him. Do not look at him. Rule 8. If the fog turns red, return to the station. Lock the doors. Wait for further instructions. Rule 9. If you hear your own voice on the radio, turn it off and do not respond. Rule 10. At 4:44 a.m., check the cells. If any are empty that shouldn't be, call Chief Harlan. Do not search alone. I finished reading and looked up, waiting for the punchline. But Chief Harlan just stared at me, his eyes hard and tired. "You follow these rules, you'll make it to sunrise." Most do. I wanted to laugh, but something in his voice made me swallow it. I signed the paperwork, took the badge, and started my first shift that night. That was 5 years ago. I still have the list, folded and creased, tucked into the breast pocket of my uniform. Some nights, I take it out and run my thumb over the faded letters, just to remind myself what's at stake. Tonight, the fog is thick and the air smells like salt and old fish. I park my cruiser at the edge of the marina, headlights cutting through the mist. The town is quiet, just the way I like it. But the quiet never lasts. At 12:07 a.m., the phone in my cruiser rings. The display is blank, no number, just a steady, insistent buzz. I stare at it, remembering Rule 1. Never answer the phone after midnight, no matter how many times it rings. It rings 7 times before stopping. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I write it down in my logbook, just like we're supposed to. Unidentified call, 12:07 a.m. Not answered. I don't know if anyone ever reads these logs, but I keep them anyway. It feels like a lifeline, a way to prove to myself that I'm still following the rules. At 12:30, I drive past the beach. The sand is empty except for a single set of footprints leading down to the water. I slow the cruiser, shining my spotlight across the dunes. That's when I see her, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, standing ankle-deep in the surf. She's wearing a white dress, her hair plastered to her face by the wind. I grip the steering wheel, heart pounding. Rule 2. If you see a child alone on the beach after dark, do not approach. Call it in, keep your distance, and wait for backup. I picked up the radio. Unit 3 to base. I've got a possible 10 to 14 at the North Beach. Requesting backup. Static crackles. Then the dispatcher's voice comes through, calm and steady. Copy, Unit 3. Hold position. Backup en route. I watch the girl from the safety of my cruiser. She doesn't move, doesn't look at me. Just stands there, staring out at the black water. The waves break around her ankles, but she doesn't flinch. 5 minutes pass. 10. The backup never arrives. At 12:45, the girl turns and walks into the ocean. She doesn't look back. The water swallows her up, and then she's gone. I sit there, hands shaking, trying to convince myself I did the right thing. I followed the rules. That's what matters. The radio crackles again. Unit 3 status? I clear my throat. The subject is gone. No further action. Copy. Resume patrol. I drove away. The image of the girl burned into my mind. I don't write this part in the logbook. At 1:10 a.m., I park near the lighthouse. The beam sweeps across the water, cutting through the fog. I check my watch, counting down the minutes. 1:13 a.m. The lighthouse flashes once, twice, 3 times. I let out a sigh of relief. The first time it didn't flash, I spent 6 hours locked in my cruiser, listening to something scrape along the outside, never daring to look. Tonight, the rules are holding. For now, I leave the lighthouse behind, tires crunching over gravel as I head toward the old cannery. The building sits at the edge of town, half swallowed by weeds and salt air, its windows boarded up and roof sagging. It's been closed for decades, but every night, we're supposed to check it, just between 2 o'clock and 2:15 a.m., never a minute more. I pull up at 2:01, headlights off, engine idling. The cannery looms in the darkness, a black shape against the fog. I check my watch, then step out, flashlight in hand. The air is colder here, thick with the smell of rust and brine. I walk the perimeter, boots squelching in the wet grass. My light catches on broken glass, a rusted sign, the outline of a door that's been chained shut for as long as I've been here. I don't try the handle. I never do. Halfway around, I hear footsteps behind me, soft, shuffling, just out of sight. I freeze, heart hammering. I want to call out, but Rule 5 is clear. Never stay longer than 15 minutes. Never go inside. I keep moving, faster now, circling back to my cruiser. The footsteps follow, always just behind, never close enough to see. I reach the car at 2:13, slam the door, and lock it. The footsteps stop. I check my watch. 2 minutes left. I stare at the cannery, waiting, counting the seconds. At 2:15, I start the engine and drive away, not looking back. Some nights, I wonder what would happen if I broke the rule. If I stayed too long, or tried the door. But then I remember Officer Ramirez. He was new, fresh out of the academy, eager to prove himself. One night, he stayed at the cannery until 2:20. We found his cruiser the next morning, engine running, driver's door open. Ramirez was gone. All that was left was his badge, lying in the grass by the chained door. No one talks about Ramirez anymore. But I remember. I head toward Dock 7, the marina silent except for the slap of water against the pilings. The docks are empty, boats bobbing in the dark. I park at the end, shining my light across the water. There's a boat tied up at Dock 7, small and battered, no registration numbers on the hull. I feel a chill crawl up my spine. Rule 6. If you find a boat tied up at Dock 7 with no registration, do not board. Report it and leave immediately. I pick up the radio. Unit 3 to base. Unregistered vessel at Dock 7. No visible occupants. Copy, Unit 3. Do not approach. The harbor patrol will check at sunrise. I watch the boat for a moment longer. Something about it feels wrong, like it's waiting for me. The deck is empty, but I can't shake the feeling that someone, or something, is watching from below. I leave, tires squealing on the wet planks. As I drive away, I glance in the rearview mirror. For a split second, I see a figure standing on the deck, face hidden in shadow. Then the fog swallows the boat, and it's gone. I make a note in my logbook, hands trembling. Unregistered boat, Dock 7, 2:27 a.m. No contact. The next stop is the pier. The wind has picked up, rattling the streetlights and sending waves crashing against the rocks. I park at the entrance, headlights off, and scan the length of the pier. He's there, the man in the yellow raincoat, standing at the very end, back to me, staring out at the sea. Rule 7. If you see a man in a yellow raincoat standing at the end of the pier, do not speak to him. Do not look at him. I look away, focusing on the dashboard, pretending not to see him. My hands are slick with sweat. I count to 30, then put the car in gear and drive away, eyes fixed on the road ahead. I don't know who he is or what he wants. Some nights, he's gone before I arrive. Other nights, he stands there for hours, unmoving, untouched by wind or rain. Once, a rookie tried to talk to him. He never came back. The fog is thicker now, swirling red in the glow of the streetlights. My heart skips a beat. Rule 8. If the fog turns red, return to the station. Lock the doors. Wait for further instructions. I turn the cruiser around, tires spinning on the slick pavement. The fog presses against the windows, thick and oily, turning the world outside into a blood-tinged blur. I race back to the station, pulse pounding in my ears. Inside, the lights flicker. The dispatcher, Marlene, sits behind the desk, face pale, eyes wide. She nods as I lock the door behind me. "Red fog?" she asks. I nod, breathless. "Just rolled in." She checks her watch. "It'll pass." It always does. We sit in silence, listening to the wind howl outside. The station feels smaller, the walls closing in. I take out the list of rules, reading them again, as if they might change. They never do. At 3:17 a.m., the fog lifts. The world outside is gray and empty, the streets washed clean. I unlock the door, step outside, and breathe in the salty air. The night isn't over yet. I get back in my cruiser, the seat still warm from my last frantic drive. The town is silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing down on everything. I check my watch, 3:20 a.m. The worst hours are still ahead. I drive the main street, passing shuttered shops and dark houses. Marrow's End is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, but at night, it feels like a ghost town. The only lights are the sodium glow of the street lamps and the occasional flicker from a TV behind drawn curtains. The radio crackles. At first, it's just static, but then I hear it, a voice, low and distorted, barely more than a whisper. "Unit 3, do you copy?" I freeze. The voice is mine. My own voice, echoing back at me from the radio, saying words I haven't spoken. "Unit 3, do you copy?" Rule 9. If you hear your own voice on the radio, turn it off and do not respond. My hand shakes as I reach for the power knob. The voice keeps repeating, growing louder, more insistent. Unit 3, do you copy? Unit 3, do you copy? I twist the knob, cutting off the transmission. The silence that follows is almost worse. I grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, and force myself to breathe. I don't write this in the logbook. Some things are better left unrecorded. I drive aimlessly for a while, trying to shake the feeling that something is following me. Every shadow seems to move. Every alley feels deeper than it should. I pass the old church, its steeple lost in the fog, and the boarded-up movie theater where the marquee still reads, "Coming soon," in faded letters. At 4 a.m., I pull into the station for a coffee. Marlene is gone, her shift over, replaced by Officer Grant. He's older, with a limp from an old injury and a habit of humming old sea shanties under his breath. He pours me a cup, eyes tired but kind. "Rough night." I nod, sipping the bitter coffee. Red fog. The man in the raincoat. The usual. Grant grunts. You get used to it. Or you don't. He glances at the clock. "You checking the cells tonight?" I nod again. Rule 10. At 4:44 a.m., check the cells. If any are empty that shouldn't be, call Chief Harlan. Do not search alone. Grant stands, stretching his bad leg. "I'll go with you." We walk down the hallway, our footsteps echoing off the cinder block walls. The holding cells are empty tonight, except for one. Old Pete, the town drunk, snores on the cot, oblivious to the world. I check the lock, make sure it's secure. Grant nods, satisfied. All good. We head back to the front, the tension easing just a little. Grant pours himself another coffee, humming softly. "Ever think about leaving?" I ask, voice low. He shrugs. "Sometimes. But where would I go? The rules follow you, one way or another." I don't know what he means, but I don't ask. Some questions are better left unanswered. At 5 a.m., the sky begins to lighten, a pale gray creeping over the horizon. The worst is over. I drive one last loop through town, watching as the world slowly comes back to life. Fishermen head to the docks, their boots echoing on the planks. The bakery opens, the smell of fresh bread drifting on the breeze. The fog thins, revealing the familiar shapes of houses and shops. I park the cruiser behind the station, engine ticking as it cools. I take out the list of rules, reading them one last time before folding it away. I survived another night. But as I hang up my uniform and head home, I can't shake the feeling that something is changing. The rules are the same, but the town feels different, like the shadows are deeper, the fog thicker, the nights longer. I wonder how many more sunrises I'll see before the rules stop working. The next night, the air feels heavier, thick with the promise of rain. I arrive at the station early, the sky already darkening, clouds rolling in from the sea. Grant is waiting for me, his face drawn and pale. "Storm's coming," he says, glancing at the window. "Full moon, too. That's when things get strange." I nod, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. I've worked enough full moons to know he's right. The rules don't change, but the things that test them get bolder. I check my gear, radio, flashlight, sidearm, the list of rules folded in my pocket. I tell myself it's just another night, but I don't believe it. At 11:57 p.m., the phone in the station rings. Grant and I lock eyes. He shakes his head, and I let it ring. Rule 1. Never answer the phone after midnight, no matter how many times it rings. It rings for a full 5 minutes, the sound echoing through the empty station. When it finally stops, the silence feels even louder. I head out on patrol, rain tapping against the windshield, wipers squeaking in time with my heartbeat. The streets are empty, everyone tucked away in their homes, curtains drawn tight. At 12:30, I pass the beach. The sand is slick and dark, waves crashing higher than usual. I slow the cruiser, scanning the shoreline. There's no one there, no footprints, no children, just the endless churn of the sea. I breathe a little easier, but the relief doesn't last. At 1:13 a.m., I park near the lighthouse, watching the beams sweep across the water. The rain has turned to mist, swirling in the light. I check my watch, counting down the seconds. The lighthouse flashes once, twice, then nothing. My heart stutters. Rule 3. The lighthouse will flash 3 times at 1:13 a.m. If it doesn't, stay inside your vehicle until sunrise. I lock the doors, roll up the windows, and turn off the engine. The world outside is silent. The only sound is my own breathing. Minutes pass, then hours. Something moves in the fog, shapes flickering at the edge of the light. I don't look directly at them. I keep my eyes on the dashboard, hands gripping the wheel. At 4:45 a.m., the first light of dawn breaks through the clouds. The fog lifts, and the lighthouse resumes its steady sweep. I start the engine, hands numb, and drive back to the station. Grant is waiting for me, worry etched deep in his face. "You okay?" I nod, but I don't feel okay. I feel like I've been somewhere else, somewhere colder and darker than this world. I write it all down in my logbook, every detail. I don't know if anyone will ever read it, but I need to remember. The next few nights pass in a blur. The rules hold, but the town feels different. People are quieter, eyes darting to the shadows. The fishermen talk in hushed voices, and the bakery closes early. One night, I find a note taped to my locker. The handwriting is shaky, almost illegible. They're changing the rules. Be careful. There's no signature, no clue who left it. I show it to Grant, but he just shakes his head. "Don't trust anything that isn't on the list," he says. Not even notes. But I can't stop thinking about it. What if the rules do change? What if the things out there find a way around them? At 2:10 a.m., I patrol the old cannery. The air is thick with fog, the building looming out of the mist like a shipwreck. I circle the perimeter, flashlight cutting through the darkness. This time, the footsteps are louder, closer. I hear breathing, ragged and wet, just behind me. I don't turn around. I keep moving, faster, heart pounding in my chest. I reach the cruiser at 2:14, slam the door, and lock it. The footsteps stop, but the breathing continues, fogging the window. I stare straight ahead, refusing to look. At 2:15, it's gone. I drive away, hands shaking, sweat cold on my skin. I don't write this in the logbook, either. Some things are better forgotten. The next evening, the rain has stopped, but the air is heavy with the scent of seaweed and something metallic, like old blood. I arrive at the station to find Chief Harlan waiting for me, his face more serious than usual. He hands me a fresh copy of the rules, the paper crisp and white, the ink bold. "Keep this with you," he says. "Some nights, the old list isn't enough." I nod, tucking the new list into my pocket alongside the old, feeling the weight of both pressing against my heart. My shift begins quietly. I drive the empty streets, headlights sweeping over shuttered windows and empty porches. The town feels abandoned, as if everyone has retreated from something they can't name. At 12:11 a.m., the phone in my cruiser rings. The display is blank, just like before. I let it ring, counting each buzz, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. It stops after the 13th ring. I write it in the logbook, but my hand is shaking. At 12:40, I pass the beach. This time, there's no child, but I see footprints in the sand, small, bare, leading down to the water and vanishing at the edge of the surf. I shiver, remembering the girl in white, and keep driving. At 1:13 a.m., I park near the lighthouse, watching the beam. It flashes once, twice, 3 times. Relief washes over me, but it's short-lived. As I turn to leave, I catch a glimpse of movement in the rearview mirror, a figure standing by the fence, just outside the reach of the light. I can't see their faces, but they're watching me. I blink, and they're gone. I don't write this in the logbook. At 2:05, I approach the old cannery. The fog is thick, swirling around the building like a living thing. I step out, flashlight in hand, and begin my patrol. Halfway around, I hear a voice, soft, pleading, coming from inside the building. "Help me." I freeze. The rules are clear: never go inside. Never stay longer than 15 minutes. The voice comes again, closer this time. "Please, I'm hurt." I grit my teeth, forcing myself to keep moving. I reach the cruiser at 2:13, heart pounding, and lock the doors. The voice fades, replaced by the sound of footsteps retreating into the fog. At 2:15, I drive away, sweat soaking my shirt. I wonder how many times the things in the cannery have tried this trick. I wonder how many officers have listened. At 2:30, I head to Dock 7. The unregistered boat is gone, but a slick of oil floats on the water, rainbow colors swirling in the moonlight. I make a note in the logbook, but I don't linger. At the pier, the man in the yellow raincoat is waiting. This time, he turns as I approach, his face hidden in shadow. I look away, hands trembling, and drive past without stopping. The fog is normal tonight, gray, not red. I breathe a little easier, but the sense of unease lingers. At 3:17, the radio crackles. For a moment, I hear my own voice, whispering words I can't quite make out. I turn it off, heart racing. At 4:44, I return to the station to check the cells. Grant is there, waiting for me, his face pale. We walk the hallway together, checking each cell. Old Pete is gone. The cot is empty, the door still locked. There's no sign of a struggle, no footprints, nothing but the faint smell of salt and seaweed. Grant swears under his breath, reaching for his radio. "Chief, we've got a problem. Pete's gone." Chief Harlan's voice comes through, calm but tight. "Stay together. Do not search alone. I'm on my way." We wait in the hallway, backs to the wall, eyes on the empty cell. The minutes drag by, each one heavier than the last. When Chief Harlan arrives, he checks the cell, then turns to us. "You followed the rules?" We nod. He sighs, rubbing his face. Sometimes it's not enough. He locks the cell, writes something in his own notebook, and tells us to finish our shift. I drive the last loop through town, the sky beginning to lighten. The rules kept me alive, but they didn't save Pete. As I park the cruiser and head home, I wonder how many more nights I can do this. How many more times I can watch people vanish, follow the rules, and still feel like I'm losing. The next day, the town is buzzing with rumors. People whisper about old Pete, how he must have slipped out during the night, how maybe he wandered down to the docks and fell in. But those of us who work the night shift know better. We know that sometimes people just disappear, and the rules are the only thing standing between us and whatever takes them. I spend the day trying to sleep, but my dreams are filled with red fog and the sound of footsteps behind me. When I wake, the sun is already setting, painting the sky in bruised purples and gold. I get dressed in silence, pinning my badge to my chest, tucking the list of rules into my pocket like a talisman. At the station, Chief Harlan is waiting. He looks older than he did yesterday, the lines on his face deeper, his eyes shadowed. "Grant called in sick," he says. "You're on your own tonight." A chill runs through me, but I nod. "Yes, sir." He hands me a new radio. "We've been getting interference. Use this one. And remember, if you hear your own voice, turn it off." I nod again, feeling the weight of the night settle on my shoulders. The shift starts quietly. I drive the empty streets, headlights cutting through the mist. The bakery is closed, the windows dark. The docks are empty, the boats rocking gently in the tide. At 12:03 a.m., the phone in my cruiser rings. I let it ring, counting each buzz. It stops after the 9th ring. At 12:28, I pass the beach. The sand is smooth, untouched, but I see something glinting near the water's edge. I park the cruiser, shining my spotlight across the dunes. There, half buried in the sand, is a child's shoe, small, white, soaked through with seawater. I shiver, remembering the girl in the surf, and drive on. At 1:13 a.m., I park near the lighthouse. The beam flashes 3 times, steady and bright. I breathe a little easier, but the relief is short-lived. As I turn to leave, I see movement at the edge of the light, a figure, tall and thin, standing just beyond the fence. I can't see their faces, but I know they're watching me. I blink, and they're gone. At 2 o'clock, I approach the old cannery. The fog is thick, swirling around the building. I step out, flashlight in hand, and begin my patrol. Halfway around, I hear footsteps behind me, soft, shuffling, just out of sight. I keep moving, faster, heart pounding. I reach the cruiser at 2:13, slam the door, and lock it. The footsteps stop. At 2:15, I drove away, not looking back. At 2:30, I head to Dock 7. The unregistered boat is back, tied up at the end of the dock. I picked up the radio. Unit 3 to base. Unregistered vessel at Dock 7. No visible occupants. Static crackles. Then a voice comes through, my own voice, distorted and hollow. "Unit 3, do you copy?" I turn off the radio, hands shaking, and drive away. At the pier, the man in the yellow raincoat is waiting. This time, he turns as I approach, his face hidden in shadow. I look away, hands trembling, and drive past without stopping. The fog is normal tonight, gray, not red. I breathe a little easier, but the sense of unease lingers. At 3:17, I hear singing coming from the water, soft, sweet, almost beautiful. Rule 4. If you hear singing coming from the water, close your windows and turn up the radio. Do not investigate. I roll up the windows, turn the radio to static, and drive on, refusing to listen. At 4:44, I return to the station to check the cells. They're all empty tonight, just as they should be. I write it in the logbook, hands steady for the first time all night. As the sky begins to lighten, I park the cruiser behind the station, engine ticking as it cools. I take out the list of rules, reading them one last time before folding it away. I survived another night. But as I hang up my uniform and head home, I can't shake the feeling that something is changing. The rules are the same, but the town feels different, like the shadows are deeper, the fog thicker, the nights longer. I wonder how many more sunrises I'll see before the rules stop working. The next night, the air is so still it feels unnatural, as if the whole town is holding its breath. I arrive at the station to find Chief Harlan waiting for me, his uniform immaculate, his eyes bloodshot. He doesn't say much, just hands me the keys and a fresh logbook. "Be careful tonight," he says, voice low. "There's a storm coming in, and not just from the sea." I nod, feeling the weight of his words settle over me like a second skin. The shift begins with a sense of dread I can't shake. The streets are emptier than usual, the houses dark. The only sound is the distant crash of waves against the rocks. At 12:09 a.m., the phone in my cruiser rings. I let it ring, counting each buzz. It stops after the 11th ring. At 12:35, I pass the beach. The sand is untouched, but I see something new, a line of small, wet footprints leading from the water up to the dunes, then vanishing into the grass. I won't stop. I don't want to know. At 1:13 a.m., I park near the lighthouse. The beam flashes once, twice, 3 times. Relief washes over me, but it's short-lived. As I turn to leave, I see a figure at the edge of the light, a child, standing perfectly still, her white dress glowing in the beam. I grip the steering wheel, refusing to look directly at her. She doesn't move, doesn't speak. I drive away, heart pounding. At 2 o'clock, I approach the old cannery. The fog is thicker than ever, swirling around the building like a living thing. I step out, flashlight in hand, and begin my patrol. This time, the footsteps are louder, closer. I hear breathing, ragged and wet, just behind me. I don't turn around. I keep moving, faster, heart pounding in my chest. I reach the cruiser at 2:14, slam the door, and lock it. The footsteps stop, but the breathing continues, fogging the window. I stare straight ahead, refusing to look. At 2:15, it's gone. I drive away, hands shaking, sweat cold on my skin. At 2:30, I head to Dock 7. The unregistered boat is gone, but a slick of oil floats on the water, rainbow colors swirling in the moonlight. I make a note in the logbook, but I don't linger. At the pier, the man in the yellow raincoat is waiting. This time, he turns as I approach, his face hidden in shadow. I look away, hands trembling, and drive past without stopping. The fog is normal tonight, gray, not red. I breathe a little easier, but the sense of unease lingers. At 3:17, the radio crackles. For a moment, I hear my own voice, whispering words I can't quite make out. I turn it off, heart racing. At 4:44, I return to the station to check the cells. They're all empty tonight, just as they should be. I write it in the logbook, hands steady for the first time all night. As the sky begins to lighten, I park the cruiser behind the station, engine ticking as it cools. I take out the list of rules, reading them one last time before folding it away. I survived another night. But as I hang up my uniform and head home, I can't shake the feeling that something is changing. The rules are the same, but the town feels different, like the shadows are deeper, the fog thicker, the nights longer. I wonder how many more sunrises I'll see before the rules stop working. The sun rises over Marrow's End, painting the sky in streaks of gold and pink. I walk home through empty streets, the town slowly waking around me. Fishermen haul nets to the docks, the bakery's windows glow with warm light, and the gulls wheel overhead, crying out as if nothing strange ever happens here. But I know better. I've seen what waits in the fog, what walks the beach at night, what sings from the water and whispers through the radio. I've followed the rules, night after night, and watched as others vanished, some quietly, some with a scream that echoes long after the dawn. I sleep through the day, but my dreams are restless. I see the lighthouse beam flicker and fail, the man in the yellow raincoat standing at the end of the pier, the little girl in white walking into the surf. I wake with my heart pounding, the taste of salt on my tongue. That evening, as I got ready for another shift, I found a note slipped under my door. The handwriting is unfamiliar, shaky, and hurried. They're watching. The rules are changing. Be ready. I fold the note and tuck it into my pocket with the list. I don't know who left it, but I believe them. The air feels different tonight, charged, electric, as if the whole town is waiting for something to break. At the station, Chief Harlan is waiting. He looks tired, older than I've ever seen him. He hands me a new list, 12 rules this time, the last two written in red ink. Rule 11. If you see your own reflection moving out of sync, look away and do not acknowledge it. Rule 12. If you hear knocking at the station door after 3 a.m., do not open it, no matter what it says. I read the new rules, my hands trembling. When did these start? I ask. Harlan just shakes his head. Tonight. Maybe forever. The shift begins with a sense of dread that settles deep in my bones. The phone rings at 12:06 a.m., but I let it ring. At 12:40, I pass the beach. No footprints, no child, just the endless, restless sea. At 1:13, the lighthouse flashes 3 times. I breathe a little easier, but the relief is short-lived. At 2 o'clock, I patrol the cannery. The fog is so thick I can barely see my own feet. I hear voices, pleading, angry, familiar, and strange. I keep moving, refusing to listen. At 2:30, Dock 7 is empty, but the water is churning, black and oily. I won't stop. At the pier, the man in the yellow raincoat is gone. In his place is a woman in a red dress, her face turned away. I don't look at her. I drive on. At 3:17, the radio crackles. My own voice whispers, "It's time." I turn it off, heart racing. At 3:30, I see my reflection in the cruiser's side mirror. For a moment, it moves out of sync, smiling when I'm not, raising a hand I haven't lifted. I look away, refusing to acknowledge it. At 3:59, there's a knock at the station door. It's soft at first, then louder, more insistent. A voice calls out, my mother's voice, then Grant's, then Chief Harlan's, each one pleading, demanding, begging to be let in. I sit at the desk, hands clenched, refusing to move. The knocking continues, growing frantic, then stops all at once. At 4:44, I check the cells. They're all empty, just as they should be. As dawn breaks, I sit in the cruiser, the new list of rules in my lap. I survived another night, but I know the rules are changing, shifting like the tides. I wonder how long I can keep up, how many more nights I can follow rules that seem to multiply with every sunrise. I think about leaving, about packing my bags and driving until the ocean is just a memory. But I know the truth. The rules follow you, one way or another. The things in the fog, the voices on the radio, the shadows that move when you're not looking, they're part of this place, and now they're part of me. As the sun rises over Marrow's End, I make a promise to myself. I'll follow the rules as long as I can. I'll write them down, remember every detail, every warning, every night. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Hold on, keep watch, and hope the rules are enough. Because in Marrow's End, the night never really ends. It just waits, patient and hungry, for the next shift to begin.